The first time I learned my husband planned to erase me, 300 people were applauding him. I was standing beneath the crystal chandeliers of the Magnolia Hotel in Savannah, wearing a dark blue dress and the pearl earrings my mother had given me before she died. On the screen behind the stage was a photograph of me beside my father on the day we opened Monroe Restoration 20, 2 years earlier. My husband, Grant, stood at the microphone with one hand pressed over his heart. Claire has given everything to this company, he told the crowd. Now she has decided it is time to step away and focus on her health. If for 1 second, I thought I had misunderstood him. Then the next slide appeared. It showed a signed agreement transferring control of my company to Grant and our chief financial officer, Elise Harper. My signature was at the bottom. The room filled with applause. I could not breathe. I had never seen the agreement. I had never signed it. And I had never told anyone I was sick. Grant looked directly at me from the stage and smiled. It was the smile of a man who believed the trap had already closed. I smiled back. That was the moment my revenge began. Monroe Restoration was not a giant corporation. We repaired old homes, churches, libraries, and small historic buildings across coastal Georgia and South Carolina. My father had started with 1 truck, 3 ladders, and a handwritten sign nailed above a rented garage. By the time I was 30, I had helped turn it into a respected company with 87 employees. We were not famous, but people trusted our name. In my family, that mattered more than money. Grant had joined the company after we married. At first, he handled marketing and contracts. He was charming, polished, and good at making wealthy clients feel important. I managed construction, budgets, crews, and the difficult work that happened after the handshakes. For 18 years, we seemed like a perfect team. Elise had been my closest friend since college. I hired her as our accountant when the company was still small. She knew every account, every password, every debt, and every weak point in the business. I trusted Grant with my home. I trusted Elise with my company. That night at the Magnolia Hotel, I realized I had handed 2 knives to the people standing closest to me. The applause faded. Grant invited me to join him onstage. Every face in the ballroom turned toward me. I had 2 choices. I could make a scene before I understood the danger, or I could let them believe I was confused and weak. So I walked to the stage. Grant kissed my cheek. His lips barely touched my skin. Just smile. He whispered, "We'll talk at home." Elise came to my other side and squeezed my hand. Her fingers were cold. "You're doing the right thing," she said softly. I looked at her. Am I? Her eyes shifted away. A photographer raised his camera. I smiled for the picture. Inside, something old and gentle in me died. After the dinner, Grant drove us home through heavy summer rain. He kept both hands on the steering wheel and spoke in the calm voice he used when negotiating with angry clients. "I know the announcement surprised you." Surprised me? I stared through the wet windshield. "You told 300 people I was sick. You showed them a document I never signed it." "You did sign it." "No." "You've been under pressure. You forget things." That sentence frightened me more than the forged signature. For months, Grant had made small comments about my memory. He said I repeated questions. He told friends I was exhausted. He insisted I had become emotional since my father died. I had believed he was worried about me. Now I understood he had been building a story. "I want the original agreement," I said. "You'll see it tomorrow?" "I want it tonight," he sighed. "This is exactly why Elise and I stepped in." "You are not thinking clearly." I turned toward him. "Who is buying the company?" His jaw tightened. "No one is buying it." That was a lie. I could hear it in the space before his answer. When we reached our house on Rosewood Lane, Grant went straight to his office and locked the door. I stood in the kitchen, still wearing my wet coat, and listened to him talking quietly on the phone. I could not hear the words. Then my own phone buzzed. It was a message from Naomi Price, the attorney who had handled my father's estate. Do not discuss tonight's agreement with anyone. Meet me at 700 tomorrow morning. Come alone. I read the message 3 times. Then I deleted it. Grant came into the kitchen 10 minutes later. He carried a glass of water and 2 white pills. You should sleep, he said. I looked at the pills in his palm. For almost 6 months, I had been taking medication for migraines. Grant usually filled the prescription because the pharmacy was near his gym. Lately, the pills made me tired. Some mornings I woke with pieces of the previous evening missing. I had blamed stress. What are those? I asked. Your migraine medicine. I don't have a migraine. You will if you keep working yourself up. He smiled again, but his eyes did not. I took the pills from his hand. I pretended to swallow them, then washed them into the sleeve of my dress when he turned away. That night, I lay beside my husband with my eyes closed while he sent messages under the blanket. At 1:14 in the morning, he slipped out of bed. I waited until I heard his office door close. Then I went into the bathroom and placed the pills in a small plastic bag. I hid the bag inside an old box of hair color under the sink. It was the first piece of evidence I collected. It would not be the last. At 7 the next morning, I met Naomi in a diner near the courthouse. She was 60, too sharp-eyed, and always dressed as if she might have to argue before a judge without warning. She did not order breakfast. She placed a copy of the transfer agreement on the table between us. Did you sign this? No. Did you authorize Grant to sign for you? No. Did a doctor diagnose you with any condition affecting your judgment? No. Naomi leaned back. Then someone has committed fraud. I wanted to feel relieved. Instead, I felt cold. How did they do it? They used an electronic signature, certificate issued in your name. The transfer was witnessed by Elise and notarized by a man named Peter Vale. I don't know him. He works for a title company connected to Halcyon Development. There was the buyer. Halcyon was known for purchasing historic properties, stripping them of anything valuable, and replacing them with luxury apartments. My father had hated companies like that. Monroe Restoration existed to preserve history, not bury it under glass towers. Naomi slid another paper toward me. They planned to sell Monroe Restoration to Halcyon in 12 days. My stomach dropped. Why announce my retirement before the sale? To control the employees and the clients. If people believe you approve the change, the sale looks peaceful. And if I object, they will say you are ill. I thought of Grant's comments, the pills, the missing evenings. Naomi watched my face. There's more. As she showed me a copy of a home equity loan against Rosewood House. $280,000. My signature appeared on that document too. Then came a life insurance policy. $3 million. Grant was the beneficiary. The policy had been increased 4 months earlier. For a moment, the diner disappeared. I heard only the low hum of the refrigerator behind the counter and the clink of a spoon in someone's coffee. Naomi lowered her voice. Claire, are you safe at home? I wanted to say yes. I wanted to defend the man I had slept beside for 18 years. Instead, I told her about the pills. She said, do not confront him. Do not change your behavior. Let him think you are confused. We need evidence before they complete the sale or move the money. What should I do? Pretend to cooperate. The idea made me sick. Naomi reached across the table and touched my wrist. People who build a lie this large do not stop because you ask them politely. I looked down at the false signature. What happens if we cannot prove it in 12 days? You lose control of the company. The house may be tied up for years. And if Grant has been drugging you, your personal safety is another matter. I folded the papers and placed them in my bag. On my way home, I stopped at a pharmacy Grant never used. The pharmacist examined the pills and said they were not my migraine medication. They were a strong sleep aid. He told me not to take them with alcohol and not to drive after using them. I thanked him, walked to my car, and sat behind the wheel with both hands shaking. 3 weeks earlier, Grant had insisted I drive us home from a client dinner after giving me one of those pills. I had nearly crossed into another lane. He had grabbed the wheel and later told everyone I was becoming dangerous. It had not been an accident. It had been rehearsal. When I reached home, Grant was making coffee. He kissed my forehead. "How are you feeling?" "Embarrassed," I said. His shoulders relaxed. "I'm sorry the announcement happened so fast." "Maybe you were right." I forced myself to look uncertain. "Maybe I do need rest." He studied me carefully. Then he smiled. "I knew you would understand." That smile became my fuel. For the next 3 days, I played the role he had written for me. I stayed home. I answered company emails slowly. I told employees I was tired. I allowed Grant to correct me in front of people. I even apologized to Elise for becoming upset at the banquet. She hugged me. Over her shoulder, I saw Grant watching from the doorway. They believed me. That gave Naomi time to bring in a forensic accountant named Mason Reed. Mason had spent 20 years investigating corporate theft. He wore old boots, drove a dusty pickup, and spoke about bank records the way some people spoke about crime scenes. He found the first hidden transfer within 6 hours. For 18 months. Elise had been moving small amounts of company money into fake vendor accounts. The payments looked normal because the vendors had names similar to businesses we actually used. Monroe Stone Supply became Monroe Coastal Stone. Harper Electrical became Harper Electrical Consulting. Each payment was small enough to avoid attention. Together, they added up to $940,000. The money had moved again through a company called Blue Heron Holdings. Grant owned half. Elise owned the other half. The betrayal became clearer with every page. They had not made one terrible decision. They had built an entire second life behind my back. Mason discovered hotel bills, luxury purchases, and payments on a condominium in Atlanta. The condo belonged to Blue Heron Holdings. I did not need anyone to explain why Grant and Elise had spent so many nights there. Still, I refused to cry in front of Mason. I waited until I was alone in my car. Then I cried for the marriage, for the friendship, and for the woman I had been before the banquet. I cried until my chest hurt. After that, I wiped my face and called Naomi. What do we need next? That question changed me. Pain was still inside me, but it no longer controlled the direction I moved. We needed original documents. We needed proof that Grant and Elise knew the signatures were false. We needed evidence connecting the drugging to their plan. Most of all, we needed them to believe they had already won. I began searching my own house. Grant's office was locked. But I had watched my father open difficult doors with patience and the right tools. I waited until Grant left for the gym, then used a thin metal ruler from my sewing room to release the old lock. The office smelled like cedar and his cologne. At first, I found nothing unusual. Contracts, tax records, client files. Then I noticed that one drawer was shorter inside than it should have been. I removed it and found a narrow compartment behind it. Inside was a second phone, a key, and a folded map of Lake Mercer. A red circle had been drawn around my father's old fishing cabin. Beside the circle, Someone had written July 28. That was 5 days after the planned company sale. I opened the phone. It required a code. I tried Grant's birthday. Wrong. Our anniversary. Wrong. Then I tried Elise's birthday. The phone unlocked. The first message on the screen was from Elise. After closing, get her to the cabin. She will be tired. Make sure she drives. Grant had replied. And if she refuses, Elise wrote back. Then we use the lake. Either way, it will look like Claire finally broke. I stopped breathing. There are moments when fear is so large it becomes quiet. I did not scream. I did not drop the phone. I photographed every message with my own phone. Then I sent the images to Naomi and deleted the sent record. Before replacing the burner phone, I noticed another conversation. Grant had written, "After Claire is gone, we are free." Elise answered, "Do not confuse freedom with us. Finish the job first." That was the twist Grant did not know. He believed Elise loved him. She was using him too. The key from the hidden compartment opened a storage unit outside Savannah. Naomi arranged for a court-authorized investigator to enter it without alerting Grant. Inside were boxes of company files, bottles of the sleep medication, copies of my signature, and a laptop. The laptop contained draft emails written in my name. One said I was ashamed of my declining mental health. Another said I wanted Grant to have full control of the company. The final draft was a goodbye message. It apologized for driving into the lake. They had written my suicide note before they chose the date of my death. The following evening, Grant tested me. He came home carrying takeout from my favorite Italian restaurant and a bottle of red wine. He lit candles in the dining room and played the old jazz record we had listened to on our first anniversary. For a few dangerous minutes, the house looked like the home I remembered. That was the cruelest part. A stranger would have been easier to fear. Grant knew which memories could make me lower my guard. He poured the wine and set a plate in front of me. "I hate what this pressure is doing to us," he said. I moved the food around with my fork. "So do I." He reached into his jacket and placed a document beside my plate. It was a temporary medical power of attorney. It would allow him to make health and financial decisions for me if 2 doctors declared me unable to manage my affairs. "I think this would make both of us feel safer," he said. My mouth went dry. "Tonight? It is only a precaution." He placed a pen beside my hand. Then he lifted my wine glass and held it out to me. I knew there could be something in it. I also knew refusing too quickly would warn him. So I took the glass, pretended to sip, and let a little wine touch my lips. Then I set it down and pressed 2 fingers against my temple. "The room is moving," I whispered. Grant stood so fast his chair scraped the floor. For one instant, satisfaction crossed his face. He thought the drug was working. I allowed my body to slide toward the table. He caught me, carried me to the couch, and checked my breathing with the calm attention of a man rehearsing grief. While my eyes were closed, I heard him make a call. "She is almost ready," he whispered. "After the sale, nobody will question it." A pause followed. Then his voice hardened. "No, Elise. You do not change the agreement now. Half was the deal." He walked into the hallway, still arguing. I opened my eyes and saw that my purse was on the floor beside the couch. The recorder inside it was running. I had captured his voice. But I had also learned that Elise was already trying to cut him out. The next morning, Grant told me I had fainted after drinking too quickly. I apologized. He kissed me and promised he would take care of everything. As soon as he left, I carried the wineglass to Naomi in a sealed food container. Laboratory testing later found the same sleep medication that had been hidden in the storage unit. That evidence connected the pills to Grant directly. The same day, an old foreman named Jonah Bell asked to speak with me privately. Jonah had worked for my father before I joined the company. He was 70 now, with silver hair and hands shaped by 40 years of carpentry. He closed my office door and placed a small notebook on the desk. "Your father taught me not to ignore a wall that sounds hollow," he said. "Something around here has sounded hollow for a long time." For 6 months, Jonah had written down unusual deliveries, closed door meetings, and instructions from Grant to remove archived files. He had also overheard Elise tell a Halcyon representative that I would be permanently unavailable after July. "Why did you wait?" I asked. Because I did not know who to trust. I understood that too well. He looked at me with tears in his eyes. "I should have told you sooner." "You are telling me now." Jonah nodded toward the photograph of my father on the wall. "He would tell you to save the beams before the roof comes down." That night, I added Jonah's notebook and the dinner recording to the growing file. For the first time, the evidence did not feel like pieces of my destruction. It felt like a foundation. When Naomi showed me the suicide note file, I was no longer afraid of losing the company. I was afraid I might not survive long enough to save it. The police could have arrested them then. But Naomi and the investigators warned that Elise had hidden much of the stolen money. If she sensed danger, she could destroy evidence or move the funds beyond reach. We also learned that Peter Vale, the false notary, had disappeared. Without him, Elise might claim Grant acted alone. I wanted all of them. Not because I wanted blood. Because I wanted the truth to close every door they might use to escape. So we made a plan. Monroe Restoration held a Founders' Night every year to honor employees and announce major projects. This year, Grant and Elise had moved the event to the Magnolia Hotel. They planned to use the celebration to finalize the Halcyon sale in front of investors, clients, and local reporters. They wanted the public stage. I decided to give it to them. 2 days before Founders' Night, I told Grant I wanted to go to the cabin after the sale. His eyes brightened for half a second. "Why?" "To rest," I said. "Daddy always said the lake cleared my head." Grant touched my cheek. "That sounds perfect." I nearly stepped away, but I forced myself to remain still. That evening, I placed a small recorder inside the lining of my purse and joined Grant and Elise for dinner. Elise ordered champagne. "To new beginnings," she said. I raised my glass but did not drink. Grant explained that the sale would protect the company. Elise told me Halcyon respected our history. They spoke gently, as if helping a confused child understand medicine. Then I asked the question we had prepared. "Will I need to sign anything else?" Grant and Elise exchanged a glance. Elise said, "Just one confirmation after the ceremony." "What does it confirm?" "That you signed the original transfer willingly." I lowered my eyes. "What if I do not remember signing it?" A Grant reached for my hand. "You do not have to remember. You only have to trust us." I looked at the man who planned to send my car into a lake. "I trust you," I said. It was the hardest lie ever told. Founders' Night arrived under a clear sky. The Magnolia Ballroom looked almost exactly as it had on the night of the first announcement. White flowers, golden lights, a stage beneath the Monroe Restoration sign. But this time, Naomi sat near the back beside 2 state investigators. Mason was in the hotel's control room. Several trusted board members had been quietly warned and given copies of the evidence under legal protection. Grant thought the event belonged to him. Elise thought the future belonged to her. Neither knew the doors had already closed. The ceremony began at 8. Grant spoke first. He praised my father. He praised our employees. He praised my courage in accepting my limitations. Every sentence made the room feel colder. Then Elise introduced the Halcyon executives. A contract rested on a table beside the stage. Finally, Grant invited me forward. I walked slowly, letting everyone see the uncertain woman he had created. He placed a pen in my hand. "This is only a confirmation," he whispered. I looked down at the paper. It stated that I had willingly transferred my voting rights, approved the sale, and released Grant and Elise from liability. One signature could have buried everything. I set down the pen. Grant's smile tightened. "Claire." I turned toward the audience. "My husband is right about one thing," I said. "Tonight is about courage." The room became silent. Grant reached for my elbow. I stepped away. For months, I have been told that I am tired, unstable, forgetful, and unable to manage the company I built with my father. Elise moved toward the side of the stage. I continued. "I believed some of it. That is what happens when the people you trust repeat a lie often enough." Grant leaned close to me. "Stop," he whispered. I looked at Mason in the control booth. The large screen behind us changed. The transfer agreement disappeared. In its place appeared bank records from Blue Heron Holdings. A murmur moved through the ballroom. Then came copies of the forged signatures. Then the increased life insurance policy. Then the draft goodbye message. Grant's face went white. Elise ran toward the exit. 2 investigators stepped into her path. She stopped so suddenly that one of her shoes twisted beneath her. "This is insane," Grant said into the live microphone. "Claire is having an episode." I had expected those words. Mason played the dinner recording. Grant's voice filled the ballroom. "You do not have to remember. You only have to trust us." Then the screen showed the message from Elise. "After closing, get her to the cabin. She will be tired. Make sure she drives." People gasped. Grant turned toward Elise. "You said those messages were gone." The microphone caught every word. Elise stared at him with pure hatred. "You idiot." That was the moment their partnership broke. Grant pointed at her. This was her plan. She handled the documents. She bought the pills. And Elise laughed once, sharp and bitter. "And you put them in Claire's water. You increased the insurance policy. You mapped the lake." Grant's face collapsed. They had forgotten the microphone. Or maybe panic had made them stop caring. Elise turned toward the audience. Grant was desperate. He owed money. "He came to me." Grant shouted, "You were stealing before I knew anything?" She shouted back, "And you were sleeping with me before you cared." The ballroom filled with cameras, whispers, and the low movement of people backing away from them. For 18 years, Grant had controlled every room with charm. Now the truth controlled the room. Naomi walked to the stage and stood beside me. She announced that a judge had frozen the sale, the Blue Heron accounts, and the home equity loan. The company's board had suspended Grant and Elise. The signature certificate had been proven fraudulent. Then she revealed something, even I had not known until that morning. My father had placed Monroe Restoration's controlling shares in a family preservation trust. The trust required 2 forms of personal verification for any sale: my physical signature and a private phrase recorded with the trustee. The phrase was something my father used to say whenever a storm damaged an old house: "Save what matters. Rebuild the rest." Grant and Elise had never known about the phrase. Their sale had never been legally complete. All their planning, all their theft, and all their cruelty had failed, because my father had understood that buildings were not the only things worth protecting. Grant stared at me. "You knew." "Not at first," I said. "But you taught me to look." The investigators moved toward him. For the first time, fear entered his eyes. "Claire, we can fix this." I thought of the pills, the lake map, the fake goodbye message, the years of marriage he had turned into evidence. "No," I said. You tried to fix your debts with my life. Now the law can fix the rest. They arrested Grant in front of the stage, where he had announced my disappearance. Elise was arrested beside the table, where she had expected me to sign away my future. As they led her past me, she stopped. Her face looked older than it had an hour earlier. I was your friend, she said. I stared at her. No, you were close enough to study me. She flinched. That was the only revenge I gave her personally. The rest belonged to the truth. The weeks after Founders Night were not easy. Real justice is slower than a dramatic arrest. There were interviews, hearings, bank reviews, insurance investigators, and reporters outside my gate. Some people believed me immediately. Others asked why I had not noticed sooner. That question hurt more than I expected. I had noticed pieces. Grant's late nights. Elise's secretive calls. The missing money. The strange medication. But betrayal does not arrive wearing a mask. It uses familiar voices. It kisses you goodnight. It remembers how you take your coffee. I had not been stupid. I had been loyal. There is a difference. Peter Vale, the false notary, was found in Florida. Faced with the messages, the storage unit, and the recordings, he agreed to cooperate. He admitted Elise paid him to approve documents without my presence. He also revealed that Halcyon's regional director knew there were questions about my consent, but pushed the deal forward anyway. The company withdrew from the purchase and later paid a large settlement. Grant pleaded guilty to fraud, conspiracy, theft, and attempted harm. Elise fought longer, blaming everyone around her, but the evidence was too complete. She was convicted on multiple charges and ordered to repay what could be recovered. The Atlanta condo was sold. The hidden accounts were seized. Grant's expensive truck was auctioned. I bought it through a third party for less than half its value. Then I donated it to our construction training program. I will admit that felt good. Rosewood House remained mine. The false loan was canceled. I changed every lock, removed Grant's office furniture, and opened the curtains he always kept closed. For the first month, I slept in the guest room because the bedroom felt crowded with old lies. One morning, I carried our wedding photograph to the backyard. I did not burn it. Fire would have made the moment too dramatic. I placed it in the recycling bin. Glass, paper, and a life that could not be used again. At Monroe Restoration, the employees voted to remove Grant and Elise permanently from leadership. I could have taken full control and returned to the same life I had before. But I did not want the same life. I wanted a better one. I promoted 3 long-time employees to an operating council. We created stronger financial controls so no single person could hide payments again. We started an emergency support fund for workers facing domestic abuse, financial exploitation, or sudden housing problems. We named it the Rosewood Fund. The first person it helped was a project coordinator named Maria. Her partner had emptied their account and hidden her car keys. We paid for a hotel, a locksmith, and legal advice. 3 months later, she returned to work with a new apartment and a smile I had never seen before. She hugged me and said, "You believed me before I had proof." I cried after she left. That was when I understood that justice was not only about watching Grant and Elise lose everything they had stolen. Justice was what I built with the space they left behind. A year after Founders Night, the Magnolia Hotel invited Monroe Restoration back for an awards dinner. I almost refused. Then I decided I would not give one ballroom power over me. I wore the same dark blue dress, the pearl earrings too. This time, I stood at the microphone by choice. Behind me was a photograph of the first Monroe Restoration truck. My father stood beside it, younger than I remembered, smiling beneath a crooked wooden sign. I told the audience about our new apprenticeship program, the Rosewood Fund, and the historic homes we had saved that year. I did not mention Grant. I did not mention Elise. For the first time, they were not important enough to be part of my speech. After dinner, Naomi joined me on the hotel balcony. The Savannah air was warm, and the city lights reflected in the river. "You look peaceful," she said. "I am learning. Do you ever miss him?" I thought carefully before answering. "I miss who I believed he was." Naomi nodded. "That person can be hard to bury." "He was never real." "No," she said. "But your love was." That truth released something in me. Grant's betrayal did not make my love foolish. Elise's greed did not erase the years I had been a loyal friend. Their choices belonged to them. My heart still belonged to me. Before leaving the hotel, I walked into the empty ballroom. The chandeliers were dim. Workers were clearing tables. On the stage, someone had left a blank sheet of paper and a black pen. I picked up the pen. For months after the case, I had dreamed about signatures. My name appeared on loans, contracts, insurance forms, and a goodbye note. In every dream, I tried to erase it, but the ink spread across the page. That night, I wrote my name slowly. Claire Monroe. The letters were steady. They looked like mine again. I folded the page and carried it home. It now rests in the top drawer of my father's old desk, beside the trust documents and the original key to our first workshop. People sometimes ask how I got revenge. They expect me to talk about the arrests, the frozen accounts, the public confession, or the truck I bought at auction. Those things were satisfying, but they were not the deepest revenge. The deepest revenge was waking up without fear. It was walking through my own house and hearing silence without wondering what secret lived behind it. It was entering my company and knowing the people beside me had earned my trust. It was helping another woman leave before someone convinced her she was too confused to save herself. Grant wanted my money. Elise wanted my company. Together, they wanted my voice, my history, and finally my life. They signed my name because they believed a signature was the same as consent. They told people I was broken because they believed repetition could become truth. They planned my ending because they believed I would remain the woman who trusted them. They were wrong. I did not destroy them. I simply stopped protecting them from the consequences of who they were. And once I stepped out of their lie, the whole thing collapsed under its own weight. My father used to say old houses survive because someone is willing to open the walls, find the rot, and rebuild what still has strength. That is what I did with my life. I opened the walls. I found the rot. I saved what mattered, and I rebuilt the rest. They signed my name to erase me. In the end, my name was the one thing they could never own.